Hello, and welcome to your Shadowlands Elemental PvP guide for 9.0. Today we're going to go over Covenants, Soulbinds and Conduits, Legendaries, Talents, PvP Talents, Gear Enchants, and your burst rotation. After watching this guide, you should be able to build your Shaman to do big damn. Let's get started. Your first decision when leveling an Elemental Shaman in Shadowlands is which Covenant you'll pick. I'll give you the short answer off the bat. Necrolord is the clear-cut best. You will get huge value out of Primordial Wave and Fleshcraft, which I'll explain later. Venthyr, the Chain Harvest is too long of a cast time. Night Fae, the Fae Transfusion doesn't do enough damage. Same with Kyrian, the Vesper Totem does not do enough damage. Now that you're a Necrolord Ellie Shaman, let's talk a bit about Soulbinds and Conduits. I run this build 99% of the time in the Plague Divisor Merilith tree. The reason I choose this one is because it has access to 2 potency conduits, and its ultimate form, Final Talent, is very useful for mitigating CC and healing a bit. I have tried this, the Plagueis Preemptive Strike, for an extra 10% damage buff, but oftentimes it'll proc on the target when you don't want it to happen, and it can be inconvenient, aligning too many stars, just like the Bonesmith Faramir tree. This crit buff is really good, but if you miss your window when it's up, it feels really bad. Although for max damage, I think this crit build could be really good. The Ameni tree, I don't really like too much, except it has this Sulfuric Emission talent, which could possibly save your life. Possibly against Mage Rogue or something, or some kind of melee cleave that trains you. But like I said, 99% of the time I will run Plague Divisor Merilith. Take this shield talent. This row really doesn't matter. And then obviously you only have one choice for ultimate form. Now we talk about the conduits themselves. Tumbling Waves is the best potency conduit. When Primordial Wave resets, you basically get an extra flame shock out there and you're doing more Lava Burst Cleave. Extended Fire Elemental Duration, I consider to be the second best potency conduit. As for Endurance, Earth Elemental increasing your maximum health. It's a very good one. I consider to be the best of the Endurance. Second best, I would consider to be the Healing Surge. The Finesse ones are not too great, but if you do run a Finesse one, I would suggest using Crippling Hex for peels. A question I'm often asked on my stream is, what's the best Ellie Legendary? Or, is Elemental Equilibrium better than Windspeakers? And I will say this, it depends on what you're trying to do. The rule of thumb I give people, Elemental Equilibrium best for one-shotting, Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence best for overall max damage bump, like meter padding, long game, and for defensive play, the Earthshield Legendary is very good. Let's talk about each one a little bit. Elemental Equilibrium, dealing direct fire, frost, nature damage within 10 seconds. Interesting fact, Echoing Shock is elemental damage and counts for all 3 of those. It also has a cooldown of 30 seconds, which lines up with this internal cooldown perfectly. So literally it's just a 15% damage buff every time you press Echoing Shock. It's great for burst windows. Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence really depends on how well you can build Maelstrom during a game. If you're free casting, hopefully. You could potentially even get crazy and run other talents like Elemental Blast or Ice Fury to generate more Maelstrom, but I would not suggest doing that. As for the Earthshield Legendary, it needs to be comboed with a couple other things to get its most effective value. The Weapon Enchant Ascended Vigor will give you 12% more healing from all sources, and the Conduit, Embrace of Earth, increases heals. You want to run Earthshield Legendary when you're playing 3s with a Warlock or doing double DPS 2s. Now let's talk about talents for a little bit. So here in the first row we have Earthen Rage. It's just random proc damage. Its damage output is not that high. Echo the Elements is a clear choice in this row. Lava Burst is your highest source of damage, so having an extra charge is pretty sweet. Static Discharge is a new talent they added in this expansion. However, its damage output is just pretty low. Here in row 2 we have Aftershock, which is pretty decent, but it's just an RNG based talent, so I don't prefer it. Echoing Shock is my favorite in this row by far. It's great for the one-shot setup. It can be used to proc your Legendary, Elemental Equilibrium, and it's just good overall. Elemental Blast, the damage is pretty low. The buff is okay. The worst part is if you get kicked while casting Elemental Blast, you're locked out of all schools, which makes it pretty bad. Here in row 3 we have Spirit Wolf, which is a pretty good talent, up to 20% damage reduction, but it just gets outshined by Earth Shield. The healing you get out of Earth Shield over the course of the game is pretty huge. Definitely the best in this row. Static Charge isn't that good. Capacitor Totem's never really been that important for Ellie, so to get up to 20 seconds off isn't that good. Here in row 4 we start with Master the Elements, which is the best. That 20% damage buff you get from casting Lava Burst will apply to your Lightning Lasso, your Earth Shocks, your Stormkeeper Lightning Bolts. It's great for amplifying your burst. Storm Elemental has some good damage output potential, but I don't prefer it. Liquid Magma Totem might have some really niche uses, like preventing a rogue from getting a re-stealth or breaking a stealthy. I've messed with it a little bit, but haven't had much success. Here in row 5 we have Nature's Guardian, which is the best choice every game unless you're fighting against a priest, because mind games will screw you over. I'll have a clip about that after discussing talents. So when I'm fighting a priest team, I play Ancestral Guidance, because the healing is actually pretty decent, and you won't insta-die because of Nature's Guardian. Windrush Totem, it's just too long of a cooldown. Here in row 6 we have Surge of Power, which has some great offensive potential. I ran it in Battle for Azeroth a lot. If you Earthshock before your Stormkeeper Lightning Bolts, you'll get an extra couple overloads, which is really big damage. But it's just outshined by the defensive capabilities of Primal Elementalist right now. With how bursty the game is, having access to your Earth Ellie wall, Earth Ellie stun, is very valuable. Plus, you gain access to a Meteor with your Empowered Fire Ellie. It's a very good talent overall. Ice Fury gives you access to a Frost castable spell. So say you get locked out on Frost, you're free to cast other things. The damage from Ice Fury isn't that great, but it can be used to build Maelstrom. In the last row of talents here, we have Unlimited Power, which has never really been good, and it's a shame. It could potentially be good if the stacks actually refreshed each other up to a certain degree, but you never really end up getting too much haste out of it. Stormkeeper is the best choice in this row. You can get some huge lightning bolt crits, and it's important for the one-shot setup. Ascendance has big potential for huge lava burst nukes. It's just a 3-minute cooldown, so you can end up waiting for your go forever. So here we are on PvP talents now, and you're pretty much locked into these 3 talents every game. Lightning Lasso is your channeled stun ability. Make sure to cast a lava burst before you press it, because if you're running Master of the Elements, your lasso will benefit from that 20% damage. Grounding Totem has a ridiculous amount of uses right now. Moonkins Convoke the Spirits, a Mage's Polymorph, a Lock's Chaos Bolt, a DK's Death Grip, a Paladin's Hammer of Justice. Basically versus every meta team, you will run Grounding Totem. The only situation you won't need Grounding Totem is versus like a Warrior Rogue Mistweaver, and you just won't see that too often. Sky Fury Totem, 20% extra crit damage. For Elemental Shaman who already has bonus crit, that can just make your crits go even more sky high. It also buffs your teammates. So if you're playing with another wizard, buff them. But it also works on melee class abilities as well, such as like Ret Paladins and chill streak for Death Knight, so consider what you're playing with. This is going to explain why you don't want to run Nature's Guardian versus any kind of priest team. As you can see, I'm about half health here, and once the priest turns to mind games me, it's going to hit me below 35%, which triggers the heal. It should heal me for 20% of my health, but instead it damages me for 20, and I easily just die. So don't run Nature's Guardian versus priest. Welcome to the gear section of the video, and it's pretty straightforward. You want to go versatility as much as you can. Crit and haste are roughly equal, with mastery being the low dog out of the three. However, mastery still is good. You get a lot of extra lava burst damage. Right now, I'm leaning toward a crit build, just because I feel like when your Stormkeeper Lightning Bolts crit, when your Lasso ticks crit, when your Earthshocks crit, it's game-changing burst. That's just my preference right now. So between Mastery, Haste, and Crit, you can kind of choose whichever one you like the most, or get a nice balance of the three. But definitely versatility is top dog. The two key trinkets you'll need, if you're going for max dam, Badge is the best one. And if you're going for defensive play, if you're dying too much, having a emblem is very useful, also known as Battle Master. It's very important for defensive play. Now, in terms of enchants in Shadowlands, you get ring enchants, so you're gonna want to enchant versatility, intellect on bracers. The gloves and boots are kind of optional. Weapon enchant, celestial guidance most of the time. I see the top Ellies on the ladder. They're basically all running celestial guidance, so I switch back to this instead of sinful revelation. If you're running Earthshield legendary, you want to be running Ascended Vigor though. Also, chest enchant, primary stats 30. Cloak, you want 20 stamina, minor speed increase. And that'll about do it for gear. Now's the part of the video that most of you are probably here for. How does this LA Shaman one-shot so many people? In order to explain that, I'll have to first explain some of the core buttons behind it all. First off, Primordial Wave. Not only will Primordial Wave apply a Flame Shock to your target, it'll give you this buff where your next Lava Burst will also hit all targets affected by your Flame Shock. So as you can see here, many Flame Shocks out, Lava Burst gets sent at all of them. The second part is Echoing Shock, which will duplicate a spell a second later after cast. So I'll press Echoing Shock here. It'll send my first Lava Burst, proc the Mastery, and then it'll send that next Lava Burst after, which could also proc the Mastery. So if you combine your Primordial Wave buff with your Echoing Shock, it is a minimum of 3 Lava Bursts, which could proc up to 5. With Stormkeeper, your Lightning Bolts are guaranteed to proc a Mastery. So by pressing Lightning Bolt 2 times, you're actually going to get 4 hits. So if you combine the Stormkeeper Lightning Bolts with the Primordial Wave Echoing Shock Lava Burst, buff it with Sky Fury, Badge, Orc Racial, it'll be 3 Lava Bursts, 2 Lightning Bolts, and if you get a proc, you want to buff your Stormkeeper Lightning Bolt again, otherwise just press Lightning Bolt again right away. So your standard one-shot during a game will look something like this. Have a Flame Shock out, precast your Stormkeeper, get your Primordial Wave out there, Sky Fury, Echoing Shock, which I have Badge macroed into, Lava Burst Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst Lightning Bolt. Congratulations, you have completed this course in Elemental Shaman. Now go out there and do some big damn. It's going to take some clutch off heals, some good grounding totems, some good wind shears, but with practice, I'm sure you guys will succeed. Thanks for watching the guide, and I'll see you next time.